Ladies and gentlemen listening to the podcast, I am sad to report of a tragic happening that has been occurring recently. You see, there's been a robbery occurring. And if you're following sports, then you probably know what it is. It's Kentucky losing again and ruining our perfect brackets for yet another season.
I really could not tell you how they always manage to do that, but they're really good at it.
Respectfully to Cowboys fans, they are the Dallas Cowboys of March Madness. It's unbelievable how they consistently find a way to lose.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
And I'm going to say this. It was super bad for me because I picked Kentucky to win the championship. Clearly a horrible pick. What is good, guys? We are back here with another episode of Habaneros Hot Takes. I'd just like to address the mic issues of last week's podcast because it was really bad for the 7 of you who listened to it.
I apologize. I got a new computer actually to help enhance the podcast, and all it did was enhance the garbage.
Yeah, we had to switch to a new editing software, I do believe, and it was bad. It was really bad. So
I've gone back to the old software, so hopefully this week's episode sounds significantly better.
just as good as the previous episodes. Even though March Madness is happening right now, we're going to save the best for last because March Madness certainly is probably the best thing you can watch on TV right now. And we're going to start with the NFL. But before we do, I'd like to give a quick shout out to our good friend Philip for giving our podcast a 5-star review. Here's a 3-second clap for Philip. Hopefully you're listening to this week's episode and, enjoying the hot takes, here on Habaneros Hot Takes, where the takes are spicy and the jokes are funny. We're going to start with the NFL because there's actually been some really big news in the National Football League. 2 new rule changes. The first of which is the banning of the hip drop tackle. This was a very dangerous type of hit that allowed players to, pretty sure lower onto guys.
You pretty much grab them by the back of their shoulder pads and put your full body weight onto the back of the legs. It caused a lot of ankle injuries and hamstring injuries, which was how both Mark Andrews and Tony Pollard got hurt towards the end of the season last year.
Yeah, the Mark Andrews injury probably really derailed the Ravens more than the Tony Pollard injury derailed the Cowboys, and it might have cost them a chance at the Super Bowl even.
The Mark Andrews injury also derailed my fantasy season.
Sorry to hear that. But not sorry, because I played in the same league. But anyway, do you like the banning of the hip drop tackle, or do you think the hip drop tackle should still be a legal move in the NFL today?
So I've heard a lot of hate recently on the fact that they're banning this tackle. Mainly because, how are you going to stop Derrick Henry if you can't tackle him like that?
Yeah,
But
he's a beast.
Personally, I think it's a good thing for the NFL. They're constantly making improvements in an attempt to lower injuries, which is always a good thing. However, the current debate is the NFL going too soft? Are we going to be a flag football league in 10 years?
And that's crazy that you say that because the Pro Bowl is literally flag football. But the statistics do show that football is probably the most violent sport that is actively played in the Americas, besides boxing and stuff like that, where you're literally punching people with no pads. But it's pretty rough out there, and the rate of concussions and nasty injuries and stuff like that is really rather high.
Yes.
That's why I think the hip drop tackle is actually a good ban, and they're going to start calling penalties when they see something like that. It's going to be unnecessary roughness. It's going to be 15 yards. I think it's totally fine that they are not allowing teams to do that. And I think it's a good move. It protects the longevity of the players' health and safety, which is exactly what you want. You don't want it to be a flag football league, but I still think this is a good decision.
But, yeah. That is a really big change. But the other really big change was that they're changing the kickoff format. This is really going to affect the league the most because a kickoff is something that happens during every single football match.
It is. It happens multiple times in every football game. It's a very complicated new system that is probably too hard for me to explain. I don't know if you remember all the ins and outs of it. Do you?
I got you. Alrighty. So the kicker will continue to line up from his original spot where they were kicking from last year, and he will kick off the ball. But here's the thing. All the defenders have moved up to the 40, and the Blockers move up to the 35. The kick returner still stays back by the end zone, and once the kicker has kicked the ball, nobody can move other than the kicker and the returner until the ball is caught or has touched the ground.
Thank you for that explanation, Turner. A 3-second clap to Turner for that very insight exclamation for you guys.
Thank you. I hope that's understandable. It's kind of not easy to show without actual footage. They used this in the XFL, though, a couple years back. So thankfully, we do have some footage of this being used in an actual game.
Yeah, and if it worked well for them, maybe it'll work well for the NFL. So if you guys still can't understand the rules because it's pretty complicated, you can go read the article on it on ESPN or just search NFL new kickoff rule and you can find information on it.
Yes.
Well, on other news of football, I want to ask you a question for this upcoming season that is still a very long time away because it's kind of a very difficult time to cover football stuff because not a whole lot's happening.
Yeah, that's true.
What are you the most excited for the 2024 season? It can be a player, it can be a team, it can be the Super Bowl, anything.
Well, I would definitely say the Bills because I'm a Bills fan. But if I was being completely unbiased, I'm excited to see how far can the Chicago Bears go this year. They've done an absolutely fantastic job retooling their roster on both sides of the ball. They're probably going to draft Caleb Williams, who's a pretty exciting prospect. And I think that they have enough talent that they could go all the way to the Super Bowl. But it's really going to depend on Caleb Williams' play. Or even if they even draft him, honestly.
Yeah, will he turn out to be just another, first-round bust in a line of bad first-round quarterbacks? I mean, or will he lead them to the promised land? Chicago hasn't won a Super Bowl in what feels like eons. So,
Yeah.
Personally, I would say I'm not very excited for this Buffalo Bills team this upcoming year. It feels like they lost a ton of their, core players on defense and even on the offensive line, and Gabe Davis.
Speaking of former Bills defenders, Tre'Davious White, all-pro corner, has signed with the Los Angeles Rams this week. Just wanted to cover that really quickly.
He sure has. Thanks for bringing that up and remembering that, Turner. But yeah, I'm not very excited for this Bills team. But you know what I am excited for is the NFL draft in April because there's a lot of really good players that could end up on really good teams and really be an X factor for that team. I know I just said really a lot, but it's really, really, really important to see who goes where because it can completely dictate the entirety of the upcoming NFL season.
Yeah, that's very much true.
Like if, I don't know, Xavier Worthy somehow slides his way to the Chiefs, does that make the Chiefs like unstoppable or something like that? Because the guy's, he seems very similar to Tyreek Hill.
I feel like he might go to the Dolphins. I feel like he's somebody they really like because that's kind of their build of wide receiver. But that would make them very dangerous if they had him, Achane, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle. They call them the track team for a reason, guys.
Yeah, track stars down in Miami. I'm not saying he is Tyreek Hill, but I'm saying I'm seeing a little bit of similarity between him and Tyreek Hill.
He kind of seems like a taller Tyreek Hill, which might be extremely dangerous for the rest of the league.
He is going to Tyreek kill any corner he comes across. Where the takes are spicy and the jokes are funny. But one last thing that I want to get to on football. It's going to be very brief for football for probably a very long time until the draft. Are the Cowboys doomed to fail this year?
Are the Cowboys doomed to fail every year?
Yeah, I know, but especially this year because everyone around them has gotten better and they have just gotten worse. They lost their starting running back. They lost their starting center and their starting left guard. They lost to Leighton Vander Esch. Dak Prescott's been through some alleged issues and still can't really, fix a contract extension with the team. Are they just losing all their key pieces?
Yeah, I kind of think they're doomed this season. When you're starting a 5-2 running back, you aren't really going to go very far. No offense to Deuce Vaughn. I don't think he's that terrible of a player, but I just don't think he'll be the best running back in the league.
I would love to see him succeed, though. That would be awesome.
But, yeah, personally, I think the Cowboys don't look very bright this season. They might still make the playoffs. They still have a pretty good team. CeeDee Lamb's a very, very talented player. They have a really good defense still. Micah Parsons is an absolute dog, but I just don't see them making any push for a Super Bowl. They just don't have that good of a roster this year.
I agree. And a lot of the NFC, especially in their division, like the Commanders got way better with the addition of Eckler and the offensive linemen, as well as some other key pieces. The Eagles got Saquon Barkley and a bunch of defensive help. So, I mean, Jason Kelsey did retire. But if you look at the comparison between what the Cowboys did in the offseason and what their surrounding enemies did in the offseason, it doesn't look great. And they're definitely the most hopeless team for next season that is going to be a contender. Because, like, you look at some other teams, like the Raiders were expected to have a good offseason. They lost Josh Jacobs. Yeah, that's a big loss, but they still have a really high draft pick. And they can use that to get someone that can really lay down their franchise for them for a good amount of time. But that about covers it for our NFL session. Not a whole lot to talk about because it's the offseason in the NFL right now. About to be the only sport in the offseason because, ladies and gentlemen, Major League Baseball's opening day starts the day the podcast goes live, tomorrow. Man, that thing is ridiculously long. We're going to need to not use that. Otherwise, this podcast will be 2 hours.
Yeah. But actually MLB's already started. We just never covered the Soul Series from last week.
That is true. The Dodgers played against the Padres last week. For those of you that didn't watch it because it was super early in the morning.
I woke up at 5 a.m. to watch it.
There were 2 games that went down. The Dodgers were able to pick up the first 5-2. There was a crazy play. Was it Ohtani or Betts who hit it?
It was Betts who hit it, I want to say.
Yeah, the ball went through a guy's glove.
Jake
literally broke it.
Cronenworth's
So the Dodgers were able to pull that one from behind. They were down 1-2 in the 8th inning, and then they rallied to score 4 runs in the 8th.
Yeah, this one was a real good pitching battle between Tyler Glasnow and I want to say Yu Darvish started for the Padres.
Yeah.
It was a great debut for Tyler Glasnow. He looked really good out there on the mound.
However, on the other hand, the other game was not so good for pitchers.
And it was definitely not good for this guy's first ever game in the MLB, Jordan Yamamoto.
What?
Yoshinbu Yamamoto.
Why did you say Jordan?
I
What are you
don't
thinking?
know. I don't know. But it was Yoshinbu Yamamoto. In 1 inning, he gave up 5 runs. He struck out 2 batters in an inning, which is pretty good.
But he now has a 45 ERA, and he got absolutely rattled in his first start. I guess it could kind of say it was expected because he hasn't even had a full year's worth of spring training. He just picked up an MLB baseball for the first time like a month and a half ago.
That's true. He threw 43 pitches in an inning and gave up 5 runs. So not a great debut. But as Turner said, we can kind of expect it. He just came over from Korea. And another interesting development was J.P. Fryereisen, who the Dodgers picked up out of the pen. He didn't do good either. 1 inning and 3 earned runs. Now has a 27 ERA. So are the Dodgers fundamentally flawed at pitcher, or just what's going on?
They have a lot of pitcher injuries coming into the season. Overall, the second game of the Soul Series was 15-11 win for the San Diego Padres. It
15 runs is insane.
Very high-scoring game. I'm shocked the Dodgers were even able to stay in it after that 5-run first inning from the Padres, but they were.
I mean, Joe Musgrove himself gave up 5 runs over the course of 2.5 innings. So, and while we were in Korea, maybe a little bit later than that, but a really, really interesting story broke out that can't really cover much on because it's all got to be alleged, but some betting money was, from Shohei Ohtani or some other source like Shohei Ohtani was used to bet on illegal sports books in California. $4 million exactly.
4.5 million.
Ohtani has since fired his translator, who used to go with him everywhere because he can't speak English. So Shohei is currently without a translator. They're looking to get him a new one.
They have somebody who's currently working as an intern.
But yeah, it's a very sticky situation for everyone involved.
If you have not read information on this story, which I would be shocked if you follow sports if you haven't heard about this. But this is insane news because Shohei Ohtani could be facing possibly a banned from the MLB for good if it does come out to be not alleged, which we are all hoping doesn't happen because he's such a talented and amazing player in the game.
It is all still allegedly, so can't really say anything on it. Innocent until proven guilty. But just wanted you guys to know about it. Again, there's a good article on ESPN you can read with a bunch of information about the subject on it. So I would highly recommend that you do that. All right, last thing about baseball. Before the last thing about baseball, my bad. Our good friend Michael Lorenzen is officially coming to Texas as a Texas Ranger. I say that deserves a 3-second clap. Yeah, he signed with the Texas Rangers for a 1-year deal. I don't remember how much it was worth. Turner's much more the stats guy.
It was $4.5 million.
There you go. But yeah, excited to see him come to a contending team. And now he gets to play for the Texas Rangers, who were really, really good at pitching and won the World Series last year. He gets to pitch next to Matt Scherzer and Jacob deGrom.
Who's Jacob deGrom?
Can you... Jacob deGrom.
Are you okay, bro? Your
fine.
baseball knowledge is bad.
My baseball knowledge is horrible. But yeah, he gets to pitch in Texas where we live, and so we might be able to get to see some of his games.
Unfortunately, he is going to start the season on the injured list. I think they're just putting him on there because he's not ready to go yet.
Yeah, he didn't play any spring training. So that, maybe he has an injury, but to me it feels like they just put him on there because, he hasn't practiced in a while.
Another one of the biggest free agents in the MLB this season also signed this week. Jordan Montgomery has agreed to a deal with the Diamondbacks. We don't really know the layout of the deal so far, but he makes probably the Diamondbacks have one of the deepest pitching rotations in the MLB. I mean, they got Brandon Pfaadt, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, who they brought in, and Jordan Montgomery. That's a really good five-man rotation.
It's a great rotation. And it also means that all of the Boris 4, quote-unquote, free agents have officially signed. Matt Chapman and his buddy Blake Snell both went to the Giants. Jordan Montgomery went to the Diamondbacks, and Cody Bellinger went back to the Cubs. Not a whole lot of free agents left, but if they sign, we'll make sure that we do our best to cover them. And now we're going to get into the last part of the baseball segment, which is, who are your predictions to win opening day games?
We could do this in a second, but there is one more thing I think you forgot to cover. Will Smith has signed a 10-year extension with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm not sure exactly how much money that is, but it's a lot. Somewhere in the hundreds of millions. I don't know where the Dodgers get all this money from. It's probably all deferred until 2040, though.
Yeah, that sounds very Dodger to me. But yeah, Will Smith is going to be a Dodger for a very long time unless they decide to trade him after that huge extension. So 2 of the opening day games have already been canceled due to rain, so we will not be able to see the Brewers and Mets face off tomorrow. Instead, they will play it the following day in an opening day doubleheader. Same with the Braves and Phillies. But getting on to actual games, we've got the Dodgers and the Cardinals facing off at 3:10 p.m.
I think you could probably assume who I'm going to pick.
It seems pretty obvious to me that the Dodgers are the favorite pick there. It doesn't really say... Oh, no, wait, it does say Tyler Glasnow is taking the mound for the Dodgers, who he already had a great game against the Padres. Miles Mikolas for the Cardinals.
I personally think that the Dodgers are going to win this. They really do have a better team than the Cardinals. Don't sleep on the Cardinals, though. I think they could honestly make a playoff push this year for one of the wild card spots. I really don't think their team is that bad. But the Dodgers are just one of the best teams ever constructed, maybe in the history of the league. I'm easily taking the Dodgers in this one.
Yeah, and you have to factor in that the Cardinals are not going to be anywhere near fully healthy for opening day. Shortstop Tommy Edman's going to be out. Center fielder Lars Nootbaar is going to be out, and they're going to be missing 3 of their starting pitchers. So the Cardinals a little bit dinged up right now and playing against the Dodgers. And it's on the road, by the way. I don't see the Dodgers losing this one.
Yeah.
Next, we got the Blue Jays and the Rays, also at 3:10 p.m. Like how that rhymes.
Personally, I'm going to take the Blue Jays. I think they have a really, really talented team. They have some superstar players, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette. They're starting Jose Barrios on the mound, who's really underrated, if you ask me. But yeah, I just yet again think they're a more well-constructed team than the Rays. However, the Rays are always a surprising team. They are always really good, no matter what happens. They went on a massive win streak to open the year last year, like stupid amount of games. I can't even remember how many.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I would say I like the Blue Jays to beat the Rays, but the Rays always seem to be insanely good at the start of the season. So I'm going to pick the Rays to beat the Blue Jays in that one. Then we got Angels and Orioles, and this one should really be generally a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's gonna be the Orioles probably. The Angels lost easily their best player, but don't ever sleep on Mike Trout. That he's a fantastic baseball player, but the Orioles are just a better team. They're honestly one of the best teams in the league. It's really a no-brainer of who I'm gonna pick here.
Yeah, and the Orioles fans, you'll get to see Corbin Burns debut for you tomorrow against the Angels, which will be very exciting. Facing off against Patrick Sandoval for the Angels. I'm also going to pick the Orioles because the Angels seem like they could be down in the dumps this year.
Yeah.
Like Turner said, though, can't sleep on Mike Trout. And I would just like to chime in real quick with a very nice hot take. I believe Mike Trout will be traded from the Angels by the end of the season.
There's always been a lot of rumors about him being traded from the Angels because they haven't had much playoff success in a while. But nothing has ever come out of these rumors. Like, it seems like every year we get Mike Trout might get traded, and he just doesn't get traded. And he seems like a very loyal guy to that organization, which is why I don't agree with your hot take here.
Interesting of you to say that because I feel like he's going to request a trade because he wants to play somewhere good. But will the Angels allow him to seek that trade? I don't know. Moving on from that, we got the Tigers and the White Sox. And who are you picking in this one?
I got the Tigers. They're starting one of the most exciting players coming into the season for opening day, Tariq Skubal, who I think has top 30 pitcher in the league upside this year.
That's a bold statement. That warrants a hot take button, I think.
There you go. Tariq Skubal will be a top 30 pitcher in the MLB this season. He has fantastic stuff from what I've seen of him. I honestly think, if the Tigers do good enough, he could be a Cy Young candidate, but I don't think the Tigers are going to be that good. However, I will still pick them to beat the White Sox because the White Sox have traded away quite a bit of their talent. They seem to be going full rebuild mode, and the Tigers seem to be pushing more towards contending here in a few years.
At this point, I feel like the White Sox are primarily constructed of the man known as Louis Bob, Luis Robert, and then it's just a bunch of other young prospects and aging veterans that deserve a second chance on this team. So I don't really think they're that well constructed, and especially on the pitching side. After losing Dylan Cease, they're not really well constructed on the pitching side either. So I'm also going to go with the Tigers because they're young. They're a little bit entertaining, actually, when you think about it. And I think they can definitely beat the White Sox. Twins and Royals. This one should be maybe kind of interesting.
I'm actually going to pick the Royals here. I actually think their young talent, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, are going to lead them to an opening day victory and really set the tone for their team to make improvements this season. While I still don't think they'll be a playoff team, I think they will be significantly better from last season. And they're going to prove that by beating a playoff team from last year on opening day.
I think maybe this is the first one where I disagree with you. I think the Twins will dominate the Royals in this one. Pitching for both teams is nothing overly special. Offense for both teams, I mean, Salvador Perez is a beast for the Royals, and Bobby Witt Jr. is super fun to watch and electric. But it's where the defense comes in that makes the biggest impact. The Twins are nasty good at defense, and so I think if it gets to be like a later inning game where it's close, that defense might come to help the Twins in the nick of time. So I'm going with the Twins in that one. This is sure to be a high-fire matchup. Yankees and Astros.
Who's on the mound for this one? Because I honestly can't make a decision with them.
Nestor Cortez and Framber Valdez.
Okay,
Cortez
so
for the Yankees and Valdez for the Astros.
I don't like the Astros, but this is Nestor Cortez's first time pitching in like a year, so I'm gonna pick the Astros just because I think it's gonna take Nestor Cortez at least one game to kind of get back into a rhythm of pitching in MLB games. Nothing against Cortez. I think he's a fantastic pitcher. I just think it's gonna take him a couple games to round back into shape. But overall, this should be one of the more exciting matchups to watch on opening day, and I'm excited to see who wins.
Yeah, me too. It's Juan Soto's first game as a Yankee. However, we won't get to see him hit absolute dingers off the short porch and the Yankee Stadium because it's in Minute Maid Park, which is my reasoning for choosing the Astros, is just the home field advantage. Because on paper, these two teams seem very, very evenly matched, in my opinion. Now, a little bit less of an entertaining game, the Pirates and the Marlins.
I'm personally gonna pick the Marlins. They have a better team, just to say the least. They might contend for a playoff spot. But don't sleep on the Pirates. O'Neal Cruz is back this season and he is a absolute phenom and I cannot wait to watch him again. And I honestly think that he could maybe help them win a few games this season, including maybe this one.
He sure is good, and it could be very fun to watch him. Plus, when Paul Skeens finally gets into the major league, it's going to be really, really fun because that dude could be amazing. I personally am going to pick the Marlins because I feel like, they got guys that hit for average really well. They've got Luis Ariz, who I'm pretty sure led the league in average last year.
Back-to-back seasons, actually.
Yeah, and they've got, what's his name? Tim Anderson that they just recently got in free agency. Forgot to cover that, a very under-the-radar signing.
That happened a while ago, but...
And Jazz Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm is pretty dang good. So I don't know about the defense, but the offense should be able to hit consistently. And I just want to say they got a super underrated pitching staff, especially with Sandy Alcantara, who people really forget won a Cy Young 2 years ago because he kind of did not fare nearly as well last year.
Is Alcantara starting in game one?
He is not. It's Jesus Luzardo, I do believe.
If I remember correctly, I think Alcantara might be starting the season on the IL. I think he had a shoulder injury towards the end of last season, but maybe I'm wrong.
He did have a shoulder injury at some point last year. I don't know if it was towards the end of this season. But yeah, my pick is the Marlins. And then we got Padres and Giants. What do you think of this one? It could be really good, or it could be a blowout either way, honestly.
The Giants are going to set the tone for their season. They had a great offseason. They want to win. They're going to try and prove that they can contend with the Dodgers. I think the Giants go out and prove that they're going to give it everything to try and do their best to be a winning team this season. So I'm going to take the Giants.
I'm also going to take the Giants because I feel like they've got a really good combination of veteran talent and pitching. Their pitching is going to be really good with Blake Snell, Logan Webb, and Alex Cobb, I do believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're going to be good. And then they got a bunch of really good veterans now. So, like Brandon Crawford and Matt Chapman.
Does not play for them anymore.
Brandon Crawford doesn't play for the Giants anymore?
Brandon Crawford, I want to say he signed with the Cardinals, but that might be wrong.
Well, I'm definitely
He
wrong.
had already retired. I can't remember.
Yeah, and they've got that prospect catcher as well, so their future's got a pretty decent chance in it. I like them over the Padres, who recently just lost Juan Soto. Then we got Reds and Nationals, and to be honest with you, neither of these teams are great.
Cincinnati. I'm looking forward to the Reds this season. I think they might be able to make a push for the playoffs this year. They have so much young, exciting talent. Even with Matt McClain starting this season on the IL, I think O'Neal Cruz hits an absolute... sorry, my bad. Ellie De La Cruz, the other Cruz phenom. My bad. I think that he hits at least 2 absolute bombs opening day. I guess that could be a hot take.
Yeah, 2 homers in opening day fashion. That is a hot take. A very hot take, in my opinion.
Yes. But I honestly think that the Reds will destroy the Nationals, and I'm excited for the Reds this season. They're an exciting young team to watch.
I want to say, this game is not by any means a battle of heavyweights. These two teams are not great, either of them. But the Reds are really banged up, and the Nationals are not starting with like really any injuries. So I do believe the Nationals will beat the Reds in opening day fashion.
Just want to say right now, I was actually correct that Brandon Crawford did sign with the Cardinals.
Nice. Then we got a game that is sure to be at least a decent game. Cubs.
What was that?
I just had like reverb in my voice. That was so weird. Was that like editing or something?
No.
Okay, we're gonna forget that ever happened. 3, 2, 1. You just forgot that ever happened. All right, so we got Cubs and Rangers. Who do you got winning this one?
The Cubs. I think that they're gonna have a great season under their new manager, Greg Counsell. I honestly think that they have playoff team upside. I don't know who the starters are, but I think it might be
It is
Amanga.
Justin Steele and Nathan Eovaldi.
But I'm taking the Cubs for the upset on this one. I honestly think that they will knock off the World Series champions in Game 1 of the season. But we'll see. It could go either way.
In my opinion, there will be no World Series hangover for the Rangers. I think they're going to go a really long way, and I think this is going to be the first in a line of long victories for the Rangers this year. We got Guardians and Athletics. Who do you got
This
winning
is
this one?
probably the worst of the opening day games, but I'm going to take the Cleveland Guardians because the Oakland Athletics, Las Vegas Athletics, they're kind of a poverty franchise right now. Until they can prove otherwise, I'm not really taking them in any sort of picks to win anything.
That makes sense. The Athletics, yeah, they're not doing too hot right now. I would pick the Guardians over them as well. Next game on the list is Red Sox and Mariners, and let me tell you something. I'm going to say who I'm going to pick first, because this one, we got Luis Castillo and Brian Bayo, I think that's how it's pronounced, on the mound for each team respectively. And boy, oh boy, do I like the Mariners this year. I think that might be maybe semi-hot take, but I just want to say they have been rolling in spring training. And if that's in any sort of way indicative to any kind of success in the regular season, the Mariners are coming for the MLB. They are cooking in their last, 5, 6, 7 games of spring training.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the Mariners. I just think they're the better team here. The Boston Red Sox were kind of considered to be big spenders at the offseason this year, and then they never did anything. So, kind of an underwhelming offseason for any Red Sox fans. But, yeah, I just don't think this is their year. I think they're going to retool. Maybe next year they get some more players and can compete, but if you're a Red Sox fan, you have to be disappointed with what went down in the offseason.
Yeah, and as I was saying about the spring training, the last time that the Mariners lost a spring training game was March 17th, which was 10 days ago. So they've either tied or won in 10 straight spring training games. And the last game on the slate, this one is Rockies Diamondbacks, and I feel like there's a pretty obvious pick here as well.
Yeah, it's going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks, reigning NL champions. I think they are easily the better team as the Rockies still search for some young talent to hopefully make it so that way they're not one of the worst teams in the MLB anymore. Least playoff appearances, as mentioned last week via Trivia Week.
If you could hear it over the terrible mic sounds.
Apologies for that again.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
We're sorry for destroying your ears with our horrible mic. This one's much better, but yeah, I really don't see the Rockies winning this one. They need to do a lot of franchise retooling in order to win really a whole lot of anything. So it's been ugly, it's been nasty, and I expect it to continue to be. But that wraps up our baseball segment. Now we're going to move on to the NBA segment, where I just want to give a 3-second clap to one man, and one man in particular, who has been leading his boys to almost they're half a game out of play-in contention, Jalen Green. The Rockets looked like they were down in the dumps and done for 2 to 3 weeks ago, and then Jalen Green had a child, and now the memes are going around that he is basically turned into dad bod Michael Jordan. He's great. He's been unstoppable. He's averaging 40 points a night at this point.
Yeah, it's honestly insane, some of the things he's been doing. I don't know how much he's been averaging in the last 3 weeks, but it's got to be somewhere in the high 20s, low 30s. He's been absolutely insane. He really is starting to look like the draft pick that the Rockets thought they were getting when they drafted him. A lot of people had considered him a bust up until this point, but he's proven the doubters wrong. He's got to provide for his family now, so he's absolutely cooking.
And boy, oh boy, is he ever providing for his family, because he's going to secure a bag at some point with the way he's been playing if he can keep it up. So, Rockets are half a game behind, well, actually, one game behind the Warriors right now. And the Warriors play tonight, and so do the Rockets. So, in the event that the Warriors lose and the Rockets win, then, I don't know, is it head to head or what? Are they just in?
There's some tiebreakers. Currently the Rockets are winning 11-2 over the Thunder as we speak right now, which is kind of surprising.
That is insane. What a hot start against a team that's already clinched a postseason berth. More on that in a minute. But the Rockets have been unbelievable recently. I think they've won 9 straight games, and they're threatening 10.
However, the Warriors are also currently winning right now at halftime with a score of 45-37. So, yeah. But depending on how these games end tonight, the Rockets could be tied for that last play-in spot.
I don't think they ever will be tied for that last playoff spot, because Stephen Curry is going to realize that he can't keep living like this. The Warriors are going to make a push, and this is a hot take. That's why I pressed the button. They're going to find themselves at the 8th seed at the end of the basketball season, meaning they're going to move up 2 spots.
With only 10 games left, and them being how many games back of the Phoenix Suns for that 8th seed?
Currently, it is, I think, 4.5.
Yeah, the Suns or the Kings or the Mavericks would have to go on a losing streak, and the Warriors would have to go on a winning streak. And I just don't see that happening. So personally, I disagree with this hot take, but you never know. That's the beauty of basketball.
I can honestly see either the Kings or the Suns going on a losing streak. I don't know about the Mavericks, though. The Mavericks have been insane recently. They've actually jumped out of the play-in tournament, and Phoenix has slid quite a bit. So, without further ado, I'd also like to introduce some new teams that are guaranteed to be in the playoffs, and we have 8 teams guaranteed to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference side.
Yeah, it's been a lot of playoff clinching this week as we ramp up for the NBA playoffs, which I know every basketball fan is excited for, but also not excited for at the same time. We don't want to see basketball go, but then again, playoff basketball is the most fun thing maybe in sports.
I'm super excited for Nikola Jokic's playoff rerun, but we will get into that on maybe next week's episode on who we got for the playoffs and stuff like that. But currently the Celtics sit at the top spot of the Eastern Conference ahead of the Bucks by 11 total games, and there are 10 games left in the season. So you know what that means. We got to give a 3-second clap to the Celtics for clenching the playoff spot.
I refuse. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
They've done it. They've clinched the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. If they just wanted to rest their starters for the rest of the year, they could, and they'd still be first place.
I apologize, but as a Lakers fan, I cannot bring myself to give a 3-second clap to the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, but also, the aforementioned Milwaukee Bucks currently are ahead by 12 games to the Chicago Bulls in 9th place, which means that they've also clinched a playoff spot. 3-second clap to the Bucks.
They can't beat Austin Reeves, though. I'll say that much.
The Cleveland Cavaliers are also exactly 10 games ahead of the Chicago Bulls, which means they've clinched a playoff spot. And last but not least, the New York Knicks. Oh, this is actually not last. The New York Knicks are exactly 11 games ahead of the 10th place Atlanta Hawks, meaning they've clinched a playoff spot. The Orlando Magic are exactly 10 games ahead of the Atlanta Hawks and hold the tiebreaker against them, meaning they've clinched a playoff spot. The Indiana Pacers are currently 14.5 games ahead of the 11th seed Brooklyn Nets, so they can't get 11th, meaning they've clinched a play-in berth.
Or at least a play-in berth.
Miami's also ahead by that many games, so let's just keep running through this. and Philly. So there you have it. There's a lot of teams that have clinched this week.
Not in the
We
Western
have-
Conference, though.
Not yet to the Western Conference. We have 8 teams that have clinched a playoff spot, threatening 9. But we are looking at the Celtics at 1, Bucks at 2, Cavs at 3, Knicks at 4, Magic at 5, and Pacers at 6 right now, with the Heat and the Sixers also having clinched at least a play-in berth in 7th and 8th.
But here's the thing. There's still time for these standings to shake up a bit.
There are currently 4 teams as well that have not clinched in or out of the playoffs, although if my Toronto Raptors lose tonight, which pretty sure they're getting beat down by the Knicks right now, yeah, it's ugly. They're about to go for their 12th straight loss. But thanks a lot for that. Thank you. But if they lose, I'm pretty sure it means Chicago will find their way into the playoffs, play-in. I think it's maybe Chicago can clinch a play-in berth tonight. But yeah, it will eliminate the Raptors if they lose, and currently they're down by 19. So it's fine because the more games we lose, the closer we get to that beautiful top 6 protected pick we have from the Spurs. So in the Western Conference, things are much different because there's really not a whole lot of separation between a lot of these teams, but 3 teams have clinched at least a play-in berth. No one's clinched the top seed in the West. No one's even clinched playoffs in the West. Currently, the last team in the play-in is 13 and a half games behind, which means that the first seed, the Denver Nuggets, have clinched a playoff berth. Play-in berth, at least. Secondly is Oklahoma City, who's half a game behind, so they're 13 games ahead of the Warriors, so they've also clinched at least play-in. And then the Timberwolves are 11 games ahead of the Warriors, so they've also clinched play-in. And this has been the big 3 for most of the season, honestly, so it's no surprise that they've clinched. The Clippers have slid a lot. They were at one point up there in Big 4 consideration, and now they're half a game ahead of the Pelicans.
The Clippers are going to fall into the play-in tournament.
That is a very bold statement because they're currently ahead by 2.5 games with 10 games to go. If they can find it, they're probably good.
Luka Magic, Zion, and the Sacramento Kings. They're all going to pass the Clippers. Maybe even the Lakers, in all honesty. After the way the Lakers played in the game against the Milwaukee Bucks last night, coming back from down 19 in a double overtime thriller, I firmly believe in my Los Angeles Lakers that we can get a playoff spot and maybe even win it all this year. I know that's kind of shocking. But
That's
I
very
also
much a
might
hot
just
take.
be glazing because I'm a huge Lakers fan. But
Yeah, we said we weren't gonna let biasness impact us, and that might be a little bit biased, but
maybe.
maybe is a bit of an overstatement to say a play-in team that is in the bottom half of the play-in at the moment might win the finals. But I mean, anyone's got a shot.
If Austin Reeves keeps dropping triple doubles, I don't know who's gonna beat us. I ain't gonna lie.
You did mention the Dallas Mavericks with Luka Doncic for a second, and I just want to say what he's been going off. Not just him, Kyrie Irving too. Mavericks have been absolutely tearing up the league recently with their incredible backcourt duo of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. And I wanted to ask you this question. Are they the best backcourt in the NBA with Luka and Kyrie?
Man. It doesn't get much better than that. You don't see backcourt duos of superstars in the NBA really anymore. Mainly, I would say the best would have to be Luka and Kyrie. And then if you had to name a couple of other really good ones, you could go with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, but they haven't blended very well, and they haven't been able to win very much. I guess you could make the case for the Lakers duo of Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell, but they're definitely not as good as Luka and Kyrie. Luka and Kyrie definitely stand out as the best guard duo in the NBA, and I really think it's not really that close.
I think I agree with you. The only other ones that can come close to that are like, I would say Steph and Clay, but that's my oldness showing because Clay is not even a starter anymore. It's Steph and Pods now, which makes me sad because I grew up watching them win championships. Not that they're my team, I mean, I literally watched my team beat them in a finals once, but I'll say it was because they were definitely hurt. But yeah. I mean, really, it does not get much better than that.
I mean, maybe you could make the case for Booker and Beal, but they can't stay on the floor together.
Maybe you could make the case for Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, which I think is pretty good, but it's not as good as Kyrie and Luka. And then like you got Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday, which that's really good. But
Jaylen Brown has no left, though.
they're polarizingly good. Like one's really, really good at defense, and the other's really, really good at offense. So they like cancel each other out perfectly. Luka's just super well rounded, and Kyrie is just Kyrie. He's great. So yeah, I think there's really not much to say there about them not being the best backcourt duo. That's all we got for NBA today. So we're going to move on to the last of our major sports that we usually cover, the NHL. Not a whole lot going on right now. So
I guess we could hand out more 3-second claps to teams who made playoff berths this week.
I think there's only one team that has a playoff berth right now. If my logic is correct, the Bruins can clinch tonight if they so much as lose in overtime. I know that much.
But yeah, let's give a 3-second clap to the New York Rangers, the first NHL team to clinch a playoff berth this season.
Also, the first team to 100 points in the league, which prestigious mark to hit. So Dallas is also going to be at 100 points, like probably tomorrow. And Nashville continues to be absolute dogs recently. They've been 8-0-2, which means 8 wins and 2 overtime losses in their last 10 games, and are going on a point streak of like 17 games or something like that. It's insane. At the pace they're at, if they somehow find a way to catch the Jets at 94 points, I would not at all be surprised. Predators are insane recently, so I mean, we could do major award give-outs. Like, who's your prediction to win major awards and stuff?
I don't even know what the awards are called in hockey, so
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't either. We'd have to look it up. I think that might be a session for next time. We will look up the names of major awards for hockey and then give out our picks for them. So the hockey is going to be really, really, really brief today because we're just really waiting for playoffs and awards and stuff.
Our hockey knowledge is rough, guys. I'm sorry.
We're still watching games and getting better at it. But this does mean we can transition to our most anticipated part of the entire episode, the March Madness specialty segment.
Yep. And it's been a wild March Madness already. College basketball is one of the most fun sports to watch when it comes to their playoffs. It really doesn't get much better than March Madness basketball. The upsets, the stories, it's just a fantastic time of year for sports. I would say, honestly, that right now and then also in October has to be just the two best times to be a sports fan in the entire world.
Yeah, it truly is something else. It's awesome. So, did you create a bracket, Turner?
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't do it.
It's all good because you would not have had a perfect bracket. I guarantee it. But no one's got a perfect bracket right now, and that includes me because as I said, I picked Kentucky to win the championship, which clearly was a huge mistake. Yeah, I picked like 2 teams consistently to win because I don't watch a whole lot of college basketball, so I don't know who's the greatest teams and stuff like that. But I know Kentucky used to be really, really good. So.
Kentucky is always good, but not in the playoffs.
Yeah, we're at the Sweet 16 right now, actually, so it's going by fast. We got through the 64, we got through the 32, so there's exactly 16 teams left. And you know what we like to do when we have a really good selection of 16 teams? We got to rank them from worst to best, obviously, or best to worst, vice versa. And then create a bracket based off that information. I have pulled up here a Sweet 16 Tournament Challenge second chance bracket on ESPN. And today, you and I are going to use...
Not sponsored, just so we're clear.
Yeah, not sponsored by ESPN. You and I are going to use our collective information to try and get a perfect bracket for the rest of the Sweet 16 to the championship game.
Okay, let's do it.
First thing we got to do is we got to name the worst team remaining. And the easy pick would be North Carolina State. Am I right? They're like by far the lowest seed.
They do have that one that Is he center or power forward? I don't know, but
Burns?
he's really good
Yeah,
as far as I know.
He is a big man in the essence of a big man, and he fits the role perfectly, and he is really, really dominant. I watched a game NC State played in the other day, actually, against Oakland, and they were able to eke out a win against I think it's the Golden Grizzlies
Couldn't tell you.
in overtime fashion. It was really, really fun to watch, but I really don't think NC State would stand the test of a powerhouse. So I think NC State's probably the worst team left on the list.
Yeah, I would agree. So I guess we're gonna take Marquette in that game.
Yeah, it's not like I think Marquette is the best team left, but I do think Marquette is definitely better than North Carolina State. And guys, just remember, it's March. Absolutely anything could happen. We're not saying these guys are like the determined winners of these games because nobody in the history of March Madness has actually predicted that correctly. So,
I would say for the next team, I'm gonna say the Gonzaga Bulldogs.
that is a bold statement. Gonzaga is pretty good, in my opinion.
Based on my very limited knowledge and the fact that they're playing Purdue, that's kind of why.
We're not. It's not to say Purdue is like a superpower. They literally lost to Fairleigh Dickinson last year in the 64, the second one seed ever to lose to a 16 seed. I actually watched the first ever time that happened. It was Virginia versus the University of Maryland, Baltimore, something college, maybe University of Maryland, Baltimore College. I don't know, but UMBC. They beat Virginia, and it was like crazy. First time it ever happened. And then Fairleigh Dickinson was able to beat Purdue last season. I don't know that I have that much faith in Purdue. I personally am not of the opinion that Gonzaga is the next worst team. I think it's probably San Diego State. But am I willing to pick San Diego State to lose in a championship game or rematch against UConn? I don't know about that. It's going to be super hard fought. I just think UConn's good enough that they will very clearly not lose to San Diego State. So that's why I have San Diego State as my 15th overall seed.
The next team I would say I would pick Clemson Tigers, second lowest seed remaining. I couldn't tell you much about any of these teams. I'm kind of just assuming.
I also would pick the Clemson Tigers to be the next worst seed, and then I would go with Gonzaga. So really, we're just picking based off seeding at this point, but that's honestly not a terrible idea. And I know Arizona's really good. They've been putting up some big numbers.
The next team I would pick might be kind of a shocker. I'm gonna say San Diego State. Wait, no, my next one's a shocker after this one.
Okay. So are you saying I pick a next team or?
Yeah.
Okay, this one's gonna be a shocker. Actually, I'm gonna take my shocker pick before yours. I'm gonna steal your thunder here.
Let me guess.
I think Houston's the next worst team. They went to double or maybe single overtime against the Texas A&M Aggies, and the Aggies. I got a friend who's an Aggies fan. I just got to say the Aggies are not good. They're not a great team, and if they could take Houston to overtime, it kind of exposes some weaknesses in the U of Hugh, as I call them a lot. I think Duke can definitely beat Houston.
I'm not gonna lie, that was what I was gonna say next.
Really? That was gonna be your bold statement pick?
Yeah, you stole my thunder.
I'm sorry for stealing your thunder. I thought you were gonna pick someone else. My bad.
For the next worst team, I'm gonna go with Iowa State. I couldn't tell you why.
I am pumped to hear you pick the Illinois Illini, I think is what they're called, over Iowa State, because I have been a supporter of this Illinois basketball team for years because their defense is so good, and every year they've proven me wrong, but this year they're in the Sweet 16, and I had them playing Kentucky in the championship game, and I just have, I don't know why, but I've just been a supporter of the Illinois basketball team for a while because I felt like, they got a great defense, and defense can win championships. It hasn't won them championships yet, but I'm hoping this year will be different.
The next team I'm gonna go with is gonna be Tennessee. I couldn't tell you why yet again, but I do know that they almost lost to UT, I think it was.
Yeah, they did almost lose to UT, and that's UT's not a bad school, I'll say that much. But also Creighton hasn't really played a whole lot of close games in March Madness this season. And to see a team do something like that, where they play almost all sweeps, yeah, that's kind of insane to think about. I think Creighton will beat Tennessee. Will it be close? Probably, because I think this will really push Creighton defensively. But
Okay, so just to recap, my winners are UConn over San Diego State, Illinois over Iowa State, Alabama over North
oh,
Carolina.
I never picked that game. I'm not picking Alabama. They almost lost to Grand Canyon University, so
Okay.
I'm picking North Carolina State in that one.
Arizona over Clemson, Duke over Houston, Marquette over NC State, Purdue over Gonzaga, and Creighton over Tennessee.
Yeah, my winners of the Sweet 16 are UConn, Illinois, who will play each other in the Elite Eight, North Carolina, Arizona, Duke and Marquette, and Purdue and Creighton. All of these schools are big name schools and really good at basketball. I do think there's an odd one out. Out of all of these teams that I'm seeing here, the only one I haven't heard is really, really good at basketball is actually Marquette. I've heard Purdue is good. I've seen Creighton play and they're good. North Carolina, Arizona are obviously amazing. UConn and Illinois are obviously amazing. And Duke has that one guy that's really, really good. I'm forgetting what his name is, but he makes a lot of funny memes about college and stuff like that. But he's also good at basketball, not just memes. I don't really know anything about Marquette, and because I don't know anything about Marquette, I'm going to pick the Blue Devils to beat Marquette.
I was also going to pick them, so...
Well, I mean, it's Duke. They're good. They've always been good. Are they kind of like the Cowboys where they've always been good but fallen short? Maybe. But, Final Four doesn't seem like it's out of the realm of possibility for Duke.
The next team we're going to say is going to get eliminated. I'm going to go with Alabama over Arizona. Arizona over Alabama. My bad.
Yeah, I thought you were saying that you were going to put Alabama in the Final Four.
No. No offense to Alabama, but I'm taking Arizona. They're a better team.
I'm also going to take Arizona, even though I think they will be matched up against North Carolina instead of Alabama. They're just a really well-rounded team that scores the ball well and has stood the test of time against tough opponents. So,
okay, your turn.
Ooh, these are two really tough options. I kind of want to pick the upset for both. I'm just going to roll with Creighton over Purdue because
I also going to pick Creighton over Purdue.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Purdue. I mean, I've seen them play in like the freaking tournament for the last 3 years and do absolutely nothing with nothing to show for it. So, Elite Eight fallout seems like Purdue's kind of style, Good farewell to Zach Edey to go all the way to the Elite Eight and lose.
And then for the final one, I've got the reigning champions, UConn, defeating Illinois and moving on to the Final Four.
I have to pick the Illini. I've backed the Illini for years in my bracket. Their defense is great. I think they can actually make the Final Four, but over UConn would be a hard stretch. Am I saying it's out of the realm of possibility? No, it's March. Anything can happen.
Alrighty, your turn.
So to recap, my Final Four picks are Illinois versus Arizona and Duke versus Creighton.
My picks were UConn beating Illinois, Arizona beating Alabama, Duke beating Marquette, and Creighton beating Purdue.
The Creighton-Duke matchup is like an offensive powerhouse versus a really, really well-rounded team with a lot of history. I don't know what to think about that. In like the NBA today, offensive powerhouses you see are like the Pacers. And the Pacers are actually near the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. I know I'm comparing college teams to actual NBA teams now, which you guys probably think is a little bit weird, but I don't know a whole lot of college basketball. So I know well-rounded teams have stood the test of time well. Like the Cavaliers are really well-rounded and the Nuggets are really well-rounded. So if you had to pick between a team that's good and balanced on both sides of the ball versus a team that is really heavy on one, I'm going to pick the balanced team. I'm going to go with Duke to beat Creighton here.
I'm going to go with Creighton to beat Duke. I just think they're a better team. I feel like the offense will shine and they will win and move on to the national championship.
Have you watched a game of March Madness yet?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, I mean, who knows? People get high in brackets without knowing any information half the time. We did a bracket challenge last year, and my sister got the farthest out of any of us by picking teams off colors. So, yeah, anything is possible, guys.
We got absolutely embarrassed last year, so how about a 3-second clap for that?
Yeah. I don't know that she even remembers that. Like,
Me either.
but yeah, that's a moment that will live in history here.
For the other game, which I have as being UConn versus Arizona, I'm gonna say the reigning champs keep rolling right into the national championship game. Give me UConn. They seem to be one of the most well-rounded teams in the entire tournament, and that's why I'm picking them.
I've got Illinois versus Arizona. I definitely just said Illinois wrong. Forgive me, Illinoisans, if that's how you pronounce that. If there's any of you listening, you Illinoisans, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Do I think that Illinois can beat Arizona after coming off a hard-pressed matchup against UConn that probably will have sucked the life out of them? Probably not. I'm going to be honest. I don't think they're going to string back-to-back-to-back wins against really, really tough opponents. So I think Arizona would be able to beat Illinois. So my final championship game would be Duke and Arizona.
And my final will be UConn versus Creighton.
How did we manage to pick 4 different teams to meet in the championship game?
I couldn't tell you.
We like to spread our bets a little bit, I guess.
Personally, for me in the national championship, I'm going to take Creighton. They're going to upset. They're going to stop the repeat for UConn, and we will still be waiting for another repeat in March Madness.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to point out the fact that March Madness's championship game, I do believe, is in Glendale, which is, I'm pretty sure, where Arizona plays basketball. Would it be home court for Arizona in the championship game? So, how do you pick against the home team? You don't pick against the home team. Exactly. That's why I've got Arizona beating Duke in the championship. And then I'm just going to put my little tiebreaker number in here. This is like the number of points you get would decide the tiebreaker if someone else goes with a perfect bracket on whether or not you had the more perfect bracket than them. So I'm going to say there's going to be 196 total points between the two teams. So I picked Arizona to win it all. You picked Creighton. If either one of them wins, I say we get 3-second clap and, I don't know, something else maybe. I don't know. Put W's in chat or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's all we got for now.
Yeah, I think that's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope the audio does not suck on this.
Yes, hopefully the audio is much better on this one. And we know we kept it sweet and to the point on some of the sports this week. It's because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about, but hopefully we'll have some stuff to talk about next week when the action gets tuned up because we will be super close to playoffs. Until then, we'll see you guys around. Thanks for listening to Habaneros Hot Takes, where the takes are spicy and the jokes are funny.